Well, in week one, there was some good, there was some bad, and there definitely was some ugly. We're going to break it all down, but at the end of the day, we're 1-0. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Jaron Spor. I'm a national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We got a recap show for you today. We got to recap the Southern Miss game, and we also will give our top dog of the week. We'll end that like we do every single Monday. But first, Landon, let's dive into it. Let's start with the offense. What was your thoughts?
It was kind of a tale of two halves. I mean, when we were texting about it throughout the game, that first half was very disjointed. Like, it kind of seemed like they weren't sure what to do. I mean, obviously they had the massive play to start the game to Traore, got that touchdown, jumped out to the early 7-0 lead. But after that, the offense in the first half looked rough. It was bad. Shapen was having trouble with reads, whether it was an RPO or just seeing the defense. And maybe some of that comes down to to rust, because he hasn't played in almost a year. Right. So maybe a little bit of it was rust, but the second half, you saw them really kind of lean into the running game and just lean on that massive offensive line and into their three-headed monster running back. And that's when they started to take control, was in the second half. But that first half was rough.
Yeah, you used the word rough. You might not be able to put it any better than that. My word would have been concerning. Watching that first half, because we were texting how, and we'll get to the defense more, but we've talked many times that we think the defense will be a little better than last year, but they were 123rd. You can't realistically expect them to now be a top 50 unit. Like, top 90 is kind of what we thought, which means they're an okay defense. And we saw that a lot, I felt like, but the offense was the one that we're like, that has to take the big jump. Jeff Lebby's an offensive coach. Like, that has to take the big jump. And the first half was so concerning because, like you mentioned, they had the 55-yard strike to Traore to start the game, and it's looking really good. And then they stall, and it was weird play calling, and Jeff Lebby wasn't, we talked about the offensive line, especially running game was going to be, that was a thing that they're going to have to lean on. They weren't running the football. At one point, I texted Landon late in the second quarter. I said Fluff has one carry, Johnny Daniels has one carry, and Seth Davis have one carry. Like, we think Johnny Daniels and Seth are good players, but they shouldn't be tied with Fluff with the amount of carries. And Booth, when he had touches, it was only like 6 or 7 at that point. Had a lot of yards, was averaging like 6 yards a carry at that point in the game. And so he was having success. And then the penalties were just outrageous. I mean, you finished the game with, 14 penalties, I think? 14 penalties for 119 yards. You do that against better teams, you're getting beat. And I'm not talking about like a lot better teams, barely better teams than Southern Miss. You're getting beat because the holdings and really outside of the Anthony Evans one, that was kind of a ticky tack. Like, he probably shouldn't have done it because Brennan was going to score. But on the flip side, I don't really know if it was much of a hold. Outside of that, they were right calls, and the pre-snap penalties too, like legal formation, that happened 3 or 4 times. A lot of the legal formation is on the quarterback. Now, one of them was because Timothy Lewis was lined up a little too far back, but some of them was the guys were in motion and they weren't set yet in the snap. A fifth-year senior can't be making mistakes like that, and he did. The interception you talked about, that was a bad read, and you could read Jeff Lebby's lips where he said, we talked about this in terms of, I'm assuming he's telling them, hey, we talked that if you see this, do not throw that, but throw this, and your fifth-year senior is misreading it and throwing the interception. And I understand interceptions happen. That kind of stuff happens even to the best quarterbacks. And bad decisions happen even to the best quarterbacks. But if your fifth-year senior apparently was preached to all week that, hey, this team likes to do this, so if they do this, and he's not reading that correctly, that's a concern. But overall, Blake Shapen had a really solid day. I wouldn't say it was a great day. He had a 57.6 QBR, which is slightly above average.
Yeah.
26 to 34, 270 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I expected to see more out of him. Brennan Thompson looked really good. Honestly, watching him out there compared to watching him at Oklahoma, I haven't looked and seen how much difference the weight is, but he actually looked bigger. He looked so tiny in his Oklahoma highlights, and yesterday he looked bigger. He looked thicker, and he had a really good day.
Yeah, Brennan Thompson looked great, and you mentioned it with that interception, and it didn't matter how many times you watch that interception, regardless of if, like Lebby said, we talked about this, that was a bad read.
Yes.
Like anyone in the moment saw that was the wrong situation. You don't even have to watch film to know that was the wrong thing. Like, I don't know what happened there, but that was bad. And the offensive penalties, it got bad. Like those, like lining up wrong, with the tackles a little bit too far back or a little too far forward. That was something that came up 2 or 3 times, which, I mean, I can count on one hand the number of times I've heard that penalty called, period. And and if it's been called once, that's the end of it in any other game I've watched. The fact that they got called for that, like whatever, I don't even remember the lineup where they were too far forward or too far back. That happened 2 or 3 times. What are we doing? And you can see it. Loadholt lost his mind.
He did lose his mind. Landon and I texted as soon as we saw him. You saw it on the TV copy. As soon as it happened, lost his mind. And that the one with Jimothy Lewis, which again, a player that we're obviously have heard lately that they're really high on. But he's also a freshman, so it's understandable for him to make a mistake like that. But it was around the goal line, and I think they ended up still scoring a touchdown on that drive. But what if they didn't score a touchdown there? And I believe,
and it was a close game. It's not a game you win.
Right. That might have been the drive that Anthony Evans got called on the holding, which would have been a touchdown. Which that's another thing. They had 2 or 3 touchdowns called back because of penalties.
It was insane.
Kamario Taylor had a touchdown run called back from a penalty, and they had to kick a field goal. And I think they went for it on 4th, and that's when he got that touchdown. Then obviously Anthony Evans' touchdown, called back for a penalty. Sloppy football, and I will say this for people before you start freaking out and acting like we're freaking out. That stuff is very common in week 1. The penalties, the sloppy play, very common in week 1. The thing is now, though, you have to clean it up, and you got to clean it up quick because you got Arizona State coming to town. And I don't know if people watch them play Northern Arizona. Arizona State did not look that great.
No.
That's a winnable game next week, or this upcoming week. That's winnable. And it's not winnable if you have all the penalties, though. So you got to clean that up. That's the first thing.
Yeah, you have to. There were a lot of good things, though. Like we mentioned, second half running game really got going. Johnny Daniels looked great. The few runs that they really put him in on, he really looked – he found a different gear. Like we knew he was solid, but seeing what he was this year, it looked different than in the past. And
we saw Stonka play both sides because he got a rush in the game.
Yep. But so I've been high on Fluff from the jump. He looked different. Like anytime you watch enough football, you start seeing guys who look different.
Him and Booth, I would say. They look different.
And the way
Johnny looked really good, but those two look different.
The way they ran was just, you could tell there was something special with the way both of them ran. With Booth, it was his vision. With Fluff, it was the way he ran. He was looking to finish every run in the end zone. And if he had to go through someone to get there, he was going to do it. Yeah. It looked different. That's what this team's identity has to be. It has to be running the football physically, and then you take advantage using the speed of Thompson and Evans on the outside. But the offensive identity has to come from the running game.
And I will say this. It almost looked like early in the game they knew that running the ball is our strength, which we knew it was.
Yes.
And so they were like, we need to establish the passing game with the rhythm with the receivers and everything, and the offensive line blocking for pass, because we got a big game next week. And at halftime, it was 13-10. And it almost was like they were like, okay, we got to win this game. Because in the third quarter, they ran the offense we thought they would, which is what you mentioned, running the football. They finished with 188 yards on 4.5 yards per carry. Scored 21 points in that third quarter and put the game away at that point. It almost seemed like they were like, hey, early game, we're better in this team. We got to work on our weaknesses. And then at halftime, it was like, okay, it's close. We need to get serious, put this game away real quick, and then we can work on our weaknesses some more. Yeah. And that's exactly what they did, which was good to see. It was good to see that they were once they said, okay, we got to get back to our strength to win this game, they were able to dominate. So that was really positive. Overall, I thought the offense line was okay. The penalties were terrible, and so if you want to knock them down to a failing grade because of the penalties, that's fine. I get it. But in terms of like how they blocked, again, run game, I thought they did really good. Overall, did some really good things. Passing game was all right, not great, but not bad either. So overall, I thought the offense was C minus. I mean, when they ran the stuff we thought they would, they were really good. But early in the game, they were really bad.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And you would like to see them put the team away before they start to work on things, because it made that halftime a little stressful. You're kind of wondering what was going on. But then they came out and they did what they thought they should do. And with the way Shapen looked, maybe there's a whole Shapen conversation that needs to happen, but we're not going to do it right now.
And we could get into that later this week because there was a lot of people calling for Kamario Taylor. But we got to talk about the defense, so we'll do that coming up next. Well, quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you wear? Yes, I said hat. For me, it'd be the game. You're seeing it right here. The game sent us these hats. They're amazing hats. I love this one. I wore it for the game on Saturday. These aren't just hats. They're the same vintage style fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then. You heard me right, because a lot of hats are very expensive, but not these. When you use code LOCKEDON, you will get your vintage hat for $16.99. Head to thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use code LOCKEDON for an exclusive discount, because legends wear the game. And college football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantages back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best price with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Gametime in just a couple of taps. I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football game as low as $25. Yes, you heard me right. The app has also made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I've said many times that's my favorite thing about Gametime. That's a deal breaker for a lot of people. Where are they going to sit at? What's their view going to look like? I loved my view. I loved it when I bought tickets, and I loved being able to see that, and that became a deal breaker for me. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and just go to Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. And real quick, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. And thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, so what did you think about the defense?
The defense looked pretty good. And two things jumped out to me from a defensive side of things. Well, three really. One, Isaac Smith is different. We talked about it.
Yeah. Landon and I just sent a text like early in that game, and we said, you're watching, and Isaac Smith hadn't had a tackle or anything at this point, and we just said, you can tell he's different.
And it's
he was a heat-seeking missile. Like, every single time someone got tackled up and they were going down, Isaac would just come in and blow it up every single time.
And I've had people who've gone into like NFL locker rooms and be like, you will see some guys are just different than even there. Isaac Smith is one of those guys. He's just different.
Yeah.
But beyond that, Will Whitson is the real deal.
Yeah.
Like he was one of the hype transfers, but it's always when you're coming from.
It's crazy. He was an or on the list. Remember on the depth chart, he was an or. We were talking about it. No.
He was great.
Yeah.
Even when he wasn't actually making the play, like he didn't get the stats, he was still one of the people causing the outcome. Whatever, like he was great. He showed up, he flashed. And anytime you have someone stepping up from a level, I believe we use a coastal Carolina, you have someone making that kind of step up, you kind of have some questions. There's no questions anymore. That guy, he has it. Secondary looked very good.
Yeah.
Especially the corners. And you heard play-by-play color guys, they were on it the whole game. Both the corners in phase, matching right there almost the whole game. They looked amazing. Kelly Jones looked very good, which hats off to you for calling that. I mean, you were on it.
I thought the secondary was the best unit on the field for them defensively. I really did. And that's obviously Isaac Smith. I'll lump him into that. But Kelly Jones had a really good game. But he wasn't the other one. We were talking about early in that game how just good the coverage was. Lanier played really well in the secondary. Yeah. And, he had a really good game. And there were some other ones that I'm blanking on. But, Lanier played really well. Kelly Jones played really well. Isaac Smith played really well. Zachary Tillman had a pretty good game at linebacker.
Burnfeld looked very well.
Yes, he did.
The whole game didn't get burned, which that was something we talked about. We were concerned about him.
Yeah, and Manning, I thought, had a good game. And Nick Mitchell, I thought, played really well in the game.
He was the best man on the field on any game.
Yeah, for sure. And Jalen Smith was a guy early I thought struggled, but settled in as the game went on. And when he settled in, his speed just jumps off the table for a linebacker. I mean, he ran down some screens like they were nothing. But I saw someone early in the game talk about, the defense is terrible again. I wasn't seeing that. I saw a defense that, like we said they need to be a top 90 unit, take that jump from 123 or 5 or whatever they were to a top 90 unit. And again, people aren't going to be happy with that, but that's a near 40 spot jump. That's a very good jump for year 2. And I thought that's what they looked like. Were they perfect? No, but they were good in a lot of ways. Allowed 199 yards passing to Braylon Braxton, who's a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
Allowed 104 yards rushing on 3.1 yards per carry. That was really good. A good solid performance right there defensively. You mentioned the turnover. Only got 1 sack and got 3 tackles for loss. Again, not great numbers. I would have liked to have seen those a little better. But, yeah, I mean, I thought the defense was solid. And really, if you're coming out of that game with any feeling, you should be at least somewhat excited about how the defense played. Because I just again, they didn't really get burnt. 3 of the points was off a field goal because of the pick, which they forced the 3 and out and a field goal. So that's really good. A lot of times when you turn it over that deep, it's a touchdown, and they didn't allow that. They allowed a field goal. And I've said this a lot. When you're a defense and your offense runs the up tempo like Mississippi State does, you're on the field so much that it's hard to judge them based off how many yards they allow and how many points they allow, because they're going to be in so many more possessions than other teams. I went and looked at it. They were on the field. Southern Miss had 12 possessions in the game. They scored on 3 of them. That's really good. So that's what 25% of the time they scored. Well, most teams are on the field for 8 or maybe 9 possessions. Most defenses against when you run a normal offense and not this up tempo one, which means you're scoring twice. Like you would be so happy with that if you allowed only 2 scores, and they only allowed 3. And again, one of those is because the offense turned it over. Otherwise, they allowed 2 scores out of the 12, which is even better. One of the other ones was garbage time. I mean, it was like a minute 30 left in the game or something when they scored that last touchdown. That's why in my little short recap, I was like 33 seconds. I was like, they pitched a shutout. That's garbage time touchdown. That doesn't actually count. Yeah.
Like, yes, it goes on the stat sheet, but your defense didn't give that up. You were just not trying to get burnt.
Well, and remember the 12-play, 81-yard touchdown, which was a really good drive by Southern Miss. That one should have been picked. He dropped it, it popped up in the air, and the receiver on the ground caught it in the end zone. Like, it was a crazy play for a touchdown.
Crazy.
So it wasn't like no blown coverages or anything like that, or a guy falls down or something. Like, it was great coverage, and it was just unlucky. Got tipped up and caught, and then the garbage time one, and the other one was because your offense turned it over. I don't know how you're not happy with how the defense played.
Defense looked very good. And you can also tell they were kind of running a vanilla defense. And it's like we mentioned, offense, they knew they were supposed to win that game. They were going to win that game. So they kind of held some things back. So I would expect to see a little bit more, maybe, I don't know if exotic is the right word, but a few more wrinkles on the defensive side going in against Arizona State. But how that secondary played, and you have a leader on that defensive line named Will Whitson now. So I could see this defense like top 80. I mean, yeah, I think that's kind of what we have now. So hopefully they keep it going and continue to build on what we saw, because it was a solid first outing.
Yeah, and I actually just read this. So Mississippi State's defense ranked 4th in the nation per Pro Football Focus, and on run game, and 2nd in the nation in Pro Football Focus coverage against all FBS opponents.
Pretty good.
You got to be happy with that. All right, coming on next, we're going to reveal our top dog of the week. Don't go anywhere.
Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, and maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. And effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. And if traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. And it's completely online. Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. You can even read real customer reviews on their site, and it's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. So head to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit Rugiet website for full safety information.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, who is your top dog of the week?
So I'm going with Fluff. Like I mentioned, he just looked different when he was out there. And I know Booth had more yards, but he also had way more attempts. Fluff, 2 touchdowns. His final line, 10 attempts, 44 yards for 2 touchdowns. He's the power back. I mean, I expect him to really rack up some touchdowns as the year goes on, a lot of short yard situations. He looked really good. Like I mentioned, when we were texting during the game, it was like, 15-yard gain. Fluff was in. He just looked different out there. Booth had great vision, but yeah, I think Fluff was really the MVP for me.
Right, and there was a play in the game, 4th and 1. They give it to Booth. He gets stuffed, and that's another where we were critical. Like, why isn't Fluff in the game? That's the perfect time to have him in the game. I went with Will Whitson. I mentioned Pro Football Focus this last segment. He made the list as one of the top national performers in week 1. So not SEC, national performers. He had 4 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 1 sack in the game. So I mentioned how they had 1 sack and 3 tackles for loss. He had the sack, and he had 2.5 of the tackles for loss. So he was a monster in that game, the Coastal Carolina transfer. So And he just played 25 snaps, which is crazy to think about, just how productive he was in such a short amount of time. Yeah. I almost went with the whole defense, honestly, because how well they play. We mentioned it all last segment, but Will Whitson stood out on that defense line. And so if you can get him to play well, Nick Mitchell to play well like he did, and then obviously what they have with Isaac Smith, that is 3 really good players at each level of your defense. And that's not including, like we mentioned, the cover corners and Kelly Jones, and how, again, Kelly Jones had a really good game. It's not going to show up in the stat sheet. Yeah, it's not going to show up in the stat sheet because in terms of like an interception or something like that, but he was locked on in his coverage.
Yeah, he was.
Brumfield played he also played a really good game at the other corner spot. And so I just thought, every time they try to test these corners and they threw these deep balls, because of last year, you're sitting there like, oh, shoot, did someone get burned? They're taking a shot. And then when the camera would pan to them, in stride with them in perfect position. So, but ultimately, I thought Will Whitson deserved the nod.
Oh, Will Whitson looked so good. One other guy that looked really good on the defense, Malik Silla. Like we mentioned him a little bit. He was one of those guys with an oar. He was on the field. He was on the field a lot. It looks like that oar might be gone. He played well. He looked good. Probably can add a little pass rushing juice. So him and Whitson, and the corners were great. The whole defense looked very good. But I mean, hey, they're up for a little bit different tests this next week. We'll see if they can keep it rolling.
Yeah, they looked really good, and like you said, on to week 2, and it's gonna be a different animal that they have to go against. But
on to Arizona State.
On Arizona State. All right, it's another big moment on Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. All right, my name is Jaron. Check out my work over at Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, daily videos, Monday through Friday. So check those out. We also post a pre and a post-game video, a little short video. So check those out as well. Hit that like, subscribe. Help us get to that 1,000 goal, which we are very close to. Last I looked, I think we're 878. I was about to say, I think we're close to 880. So getting really close to that 1,000 subscriber goal. So help us get there as we try to bring you great coverage throughout the college football season. And until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.